Hi, this is Ashira and welcome back to Angels with Scaly Wings. In the last part we started the redemption mod, so we're hanging out with Maverick, and yeah, we are trying to redeem ourselves to prove to him that we're not a bad dude, we don't like Reza, and hopefully we can work together and have nicer things happen than what's happened in the past. He normally gets shot quite a lot, hopefully we can avoid this. But we're just working our way through chapter 2. I'm in hanging out with Sebastian, and we're just asking him, would it be okay if I could get a copy of everything that we found out today? I did some investigations for him. Sebastian was looking unsure at first, but then smiled. Let me guess, it's because of the little walk you had last time. Well, as long as you don't tell anybody else about it, it should be okay. Yeah, so Sebastian, he's set up a meeting with us and Maverick. It's all hush-hush, it's all quiet. We can't tell Bryce about it, but Sebastian knows. So he's kind of keeping an eye on the situation so both of us remain safe. A few minutes later, he gave me an envelope. Maybe you'll notice something that we've missed. Thanks, Sebastian. You're welcome. Can you find your way back home to your apartment? Of course. Okay, then I'll see you later. Good luck. So we're going to continue our investigations with Maverick. Got some messages on the answering machine though. I've got a plan on what to do next. If you still want to help, give me a call. And that is what we shall do. More options. We can hang out with Zhong. Okay, so let's go Maverick. When I arrived at the cafe, I noticed that Maverick was sitting at the same table that Reza and I were sitting last time. Remembering what he told me, I wasn't sure that this wasn't a coincidence. Evening. Evening. It's good to see that you decided to work together with me. I was surprised by his more or less friendly behaviour. Maybe he was actually giving me a chance to prove that I wanted to help. Welcome to our establishment. I'm Adine. I'll be your waitress today. Hey, Adine. Good evening to you too, Maverick. Good evening, Adine. What can I bring you to? Coffee. Thanks. What do I want? I'll mash him. Coffee. I'll be right back. I didn't know you two knew each other. I often come here during my break. The coffee helps me stay awake on long days, especially when I'm the flyer on duty. Do you think it's a good idea to meet here? I thought you wanted our meetings to stay a secret. It's not a problem. Sebastian already knows about it and agreed to keep it a secret. Bryce is most likely at Zong's bar at this time. Yeah, I remember it from the last time I met him. When I went to the police station to share some information about Reza, we ended up at the bar. I'm sure hope that he didn't start a drinking contest again. The council has their eyes everywhere, and they wouldn't be too happy if anything happens to their important ambassador. No offence. Actually, we ended up in that contest. Yeah, it's the Bryce I know. Did you win? I don't know. It's kind of hard to remember. You still deserve respect for challenging a dragon to a drinking contest. It sounds as if Bryce visits the bar often though. Being in the Force isn't easy, and we all have different ways of dealing with it. Feeling that Maverick wasn't comfortable with the topic, I tried to change it. I nevertheless was surprised that he was actually doing small talk instead of going straight to business. That sounds as if your team only has 3 members. We're a small town, so we don't need that many members. Kenneth is our archivist, and Naomi is our analyst. She's a nice and hard-working girl, but sometimes stays in the office long after her shift ends. Not that I'm any better. Here you go, enjoy. Thanks. Suddenly I noticed a change in Maverick's behaviour. It wasn't a grumpy face like last time, but more of an official business tone. Let's go back to the reason we're here. After our last meeting, I had time to think about everything you told me. Since you called me for a second meeting, it looks as if you're starting to trust me. Unlike the other dragons, I believe that trust has to be earned. So far, you made good progress, and I hope you don't disappoint me. It's not what I was expecting, but I can work with that. So, that's why you chose this place to meet me. This was the place we went to after we finished the production facility and got the generator. We're even sitting at the same table. If we want to catch Reza, then I need to know more about him, his habits, his way of thinking, and his past. You said you were friends, and you were the last one he talked to? So, if you're not his accomplice, then you're our best witness for the case. I'll try my best to remember everything that might help us find him. Good, then we can arrest him. Yes, but only if Reza is behind all of this. Maverick gave me a skeptical look. So you're still thinking that he's innocent? I know it sounds crazy that I still believe in him, especially after he shot you, But try to look at it from my point of view. Just think about how Bryce is now, and then for some reason, you two wouldn't be able to see each other for years. The next time you'd meet him would be in a different world, after your whole civilization's collapsed, and you'd only been able to talk to him for a few minutes. He asks you for a private meeting, but then your conversation gets interrupted by an angry officer. He might have gotten frightened and thought he had to defend himself, but the next day Bryce is suddenly accused of murder. Would you be able to think rationally, or would a part of you try to refuse seeing the truth? Maverick was silent for a moment and thought about the situation. Surprisingly, his response was different from what I'd expected. I see your point, and if I'd been in your situation, I might also have problems accepting it, especially if the officer that tells me would also suspect and attack me. However, I wouldn't blindly trust my feelings for an old friend either. Neither do I, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I still hope that all of this turns out to be a misunderstanding, but I can't ignore the truth either. I mean, chances are higher that it is Reza, we shall see. Reza shot you without hesitating, nor showing any remorse. And then out of nowhere, someone starts murdering dragons in an otherwise peaceful town. Like you said, there are no coincidences. I was wrong about you, so maybe I'm wrong about him too. As unlikely as it seems for now. Thanks for both. Well, let's start with the basics. What did you talk about when you were here? After complaining about you following him, he asked me if I also noticed that this place is strange. At first I didn't know what he was talking about, but now... What do you mean? Is it about us dragons, or about our culture as a whole? It's about everything, to be honest. The furniture, technology, even the food. If I wouldn't know that I was in a different world for the dragons, I would think that this is my home before the flare and our advanced technology. Is our civilization that similar to yours? Yes, and it's actually very interesting. I read some of your literature, and it seems that we humans played an important part in your history and myths. Moreover, you're the second known sentient species, so that combined with your creation myth might explain why this place feels like home. I never was one of the believers of the creation myth, but it's still interesting to learn that our civilizations are similar. We're even speaking the same language. Mankind has many different languages, but English became the global language. I got to agree, that's more than just coincidence. Okay, hold up, question. So, yes, we call it English. What would the dragons call that the language that they're speaking? Would they also call it English? Does that mean that there's an England in the dragon world? Where would they get that name from if it is called English? Yeah, maybe it is just a coincidence. I don't remember reading anything about the origin of our language, and we only have one, but the believers of the creation myth are calling it the language of humans. Okay, there we go, there's my answer. They believe that the humans not only helped us to gain sentience, but also taught us to speak. However, that might be a topic for another day. Yeah, let's get Lorem in here for that discussion. As fascinating as it was, Maverick was right. We had other matters to discuss. What happened after that? He told me that he can't talk openly, so he was planning to send me a coded message and that I'd know what to do. So you didn't plan the code, or something similar? No, but I knew that it couldn't be something complicated. I spent half the day searching my apartment, thinking that he'd most likely had a similar one. After checking some books, I went to the pantry and noticed the lemons. How did you know it had to do with lemons? I remembered a class that I had with Reza years ago where we learned it. If you write something with lemon juice on a piece of paper, it'd disappear. However, if you're carefully heating it up, oxidation occurs and reveals the message. It's actually a trick that children learn at school. So it's an effective and easy to use trick to write coded messages. More or less. I'm still surprised that Reza never questioned my ability to read it. It was as if he was sure I'd remember that one random chemistry class that we went to. Was he always like that? Well, I know he values the use of his own intellect, and he expects others to be the same. That's why he was sure I'd be able to decode the message. What else could he tell me about him? He was an above-average student, always very outspoken. Reza never failed to speak up to make his opinions known. He spoke a lot, but you could also expect him to act on his word. Even when he clashed with others, including the school staff, his genuine enthusiasm also garnered praise from them. I know those kinds of people. They can achieve great things, no matter if those things are good or bad. Most of them decide to become politicians. That's what I expected him to become too, either that or an activist. We lost contact after we graduated, When we found the portal, I was surprised to learn that he'd volunteered to visit your world. In the end, we never were that close, but we still called each other friends. With everything that's happened the last few years, it feels as if he's one of the last people left from the pre-flare world. Sometimes it's hard to let go of the past, even if it causes more pain. That's true. Tell me about your meeting at the portal. To be honest, there wasn't much time to talk before you appeared. We planned to send the generator Anna gave us back home. Then he told me that something was about to happen. Can you remember his exact words? He asked me if I would know what this place was, and that he was afraid that this whole place would be gone soon. He was about to tell me more, but then you appeared. So whatever this danger is he was talking about, he didn't have a chance to tell you more. Maybe he'll tell us once we find him. I hope so. By the way, I've got something for you. I grabbed the envelope Sebastian gave me and opened it. I asked Sebastian for a copy of all the evidence that we collected today. Most of it seems trivial for now, like some sort of map Reza was searching for. However, this one makes me feel nervous. I showed him Reza's shopping list, and by the look on Maverick's face, he had the same thought as I. He bought a lot of lemons, and all those purchases are close to the dates on him sending letters to your people. He gave me a scrutinising look, as if he was waiting for a certain reaction. I know what you're thinking, but no, I didn't know about any hidden messages between Reza and my people. Did they ever show you the letters? I never saw the original letters, only copies or summaries of longer ones. I could see that you wanted to ask another question, but for some reason he didn't. I'm not sure if Bryce would agree with my theory, but there might be someone behind Reza, someone who's giving him orders that only he's allowed to know. It's a shame that we never found any of his other letters. Did you already search his entire apartment? Yes, but we didn't find anything useful. At first Maverick didn't show any reaction, but then he roguishly smiled. Except you want to search it a second time. Maybe you humans know of hiding places that we wouldn't think of. That was my intention, yeah. I like the way you're thinking. Who knows, maybe you're actually fit to be a police officer one day. With that, we paid for our drinks and gave Adine a generous tip before we left for Reza's apartment. We're gonna raid this dude, find all his dirty stuff. It didn't take us long to arrive at the location of Reza's old apartment. Just like mine, it was isolated from the other apartments to keep us safe and undisturbed by other residents. We tried to maintain a low profile when we finally arrived at the door, sneaking behind the cordon. Luckily, the door didn't have a police seal, so we were able to open the door without leaving any traces behind. We entered the apartment and Maverick made sure that the curtains were closed before he turned on the light. I once more envied the dragons and their abilities, like having a better night vision than us humans. The interior decoration of the apartment was almost identical to mine, including the same books and furniture. It seemed as if the dragons prepared the apartments the same way before Reza and I had even arrived. I wondered if Remy was in charge of preparing the apartments, or if he was only responsible for the food and books. At least I now was sure that Reza also must have guessed that we both had the same things in our apartments when he prepared the message. Okay, so where are we gonna look? I guess we'll just go top to bottom. Alright, living room. I'd made my way to the bookshelf and looked inside the books and the shelf itself, but I neither found hidden letters inside the books nor any kind of manipulation on the shelf itself. No good. Alright, kitchen, where the lemons are. We entered the kitchen, and the first thing I noticed was the knife stand, or better, the absence of it. Did the police take it away when they were here, or did Reza hide it somewhere? I tried to think about the knife stand in my apartment, but I never really used it. Did Reza get his second weapon from here? Okay, fridge. I opened the fridge and noticed that there was a lot of meat and veggies. Reza seemed to have deposed everything that was foreign to us and only bought food that was known to humans. Alright, pantry. The first thing I noticed when I inspected the pantry was the number of lemons. By now, I already realised that Reza had bought way too many for just consuming them. Hidden at the back of the pantry was an empty knife stand. It was a small one, but still able to hold up to 3 knives. I guess we found the sharp implement that we were searching for. So, he has at least 3 knives. Did you follow Reza all the time, or were there moments where he was alone? After I convinced Bryce to let me follow him, we tried to keep an eye on him all day long. What about at night? It's good to know me, you only have 3 dragons to 24 hours. Or better 23 in the case of your world. Damn, I didn't consider that he might sneak out at night. So he had enough time to scout the town, maybe even setting up a hideout or two to store weapons and supplies. That would explain why we can't find him. I'll inform Sebastian about those details tomorrow. So your days are 24 hours long? Yes, and our years are 365 days. Well, 365 and a quarter or so, so every 4 years we add an extra day to what we call a leap year, making it 366. We always have 372 days a year. Never changes. You humans seem to like to overcomplicate everything. I guess you're right. And I didn't even talk about the summer or winter time, or the different time zones that we need for all the places around the globe. We both laughed and got back to work. Okay, so we found... Well, we didn't find the knives, but we found the fact that they were gone. Alright, bathroom. Reza's bath wasn't that different from mine, and there weren't any good hiding places except for the cabinet. I looked inside the cabinet and found a few razors. There was also an empty bottle of pain meds. The police had watched Reza's apartment after he ran away, so Reza must have taken them earlier. A closer inspection revealed that Reza's cabinet was also missing things like scissors and disinfectant, stuff that he could need in case of an injury. Did you also provide a first aid kit for the apartment? Maybe a fire extinguisher? The council decided to add a first aid kit for both of your apartments, but they didn't think of fire extinguishers. Our team didn't find the first aid kit when they were searching the place though. I guess he must have stored it all somewhere else just in case, which would explain how he was able to treat his wounds. Okay, go for the bedroom. What are you hiding, Reza? We entered the bedroom and searched the places the police might have missed. Thanks to the information Maverick got from Sebastian, we skipped the places they've searched already. I opened the cabinet and saw many unused papers and a pen. When I wanted to take a closer look, I smelled the flavour of lemons coming up from the pen. It was modified and was most likely brought from the human world. I don't like to admit it, but it seems like you were right. Look at this. It's just a pen. He took it and clumsily tried to write something on a paper. Even if it was difficult to see, I noticed a few wet lines where the pen had touched the paper, but no ink. And it's broken. No, if you look closely, you can still see the lines of what you wrote. Damn, you're right. It looks as if it was modified to write with lemon juice. I'm certain that he brought it with him from our side of the portal, which means it was completely pre-planned. I was right about your people trying to trick us then. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Reza had sent coded messages to my people back home. When I took a closer look at the unused paper, I noticed that one of them was different. While the others were looking like new, this one had been folded and was mixed with the others. I lit the candle on top of the cabinet while Maverick was observing me. Carefully, not to burn the letter, I moved it closer to the fire. My hope that I was wrong was shattered when words appeared on the paper. Mission in danger, starting emergency protocol was written on it. Silently, I handed over the paper and sat down on the bed. I expected Maverick to say that he was right, or worse, started to suspect me again, but I was instead surprised by him. Are you alright? To be honest, I don't know. Maverick gave me a worried look, but I needed time to process what I just discovered, and didn't want to talk about it. Let's check the other rooms. Before he was able to respond, I stood up again and continued my inspection. I noticed that he wanted to say something, but instead just gave me a nod. When we were returning to the living room, I heard a creaking sound. After paying closer attention, I noticed that one of the floorboards was loose. Okay, well, how could we not check? As I kneeled down to work on the floorboard, Maverick was watching me closely as I removed it. Using a floor as a hiding spot's a clever idea. Since we have buildings for different species, no one will pay attention if the floors creaked when a bigger dragon walks on it. Not to mention that most species lack hands to properly grab things, making this kind of hideout almost useless to most of us. Back in my world, this is actually a pretty common hiding spot. It even became kind of a cliche in crime series. Inside the hull was a little bag with spare ammo and a small book. So Reza hid more ammo in case he loses the ones that he always carries with him, or in the case of you confiscating it. It seems he'd planned his escape for some time now. Let's not forget that he ran away after you appeared at the portal. Are you saying that it's my fault that he escaped? No, what I meant to say is that he wasn't planning to hide that night. It's very likely that he had no time to return to his apartment. Otherwise, he would have taken the ammo and his book with him. You might be right about that. Sorry. Like you said, he most likely had plans of escaping and hiding in case of an emergency. The missing knives could be evidence that he already set up a hideout somewhere. He messed up his plans, and he wasn't able to destroy all of the evidence like the letter that we found. I took the book and opened it. I smiled and looked back at Maverick. Or his diary. I'm sure there's something that can help us, even if it's just about his way of thinking. Are you sure you're not secretly a police officer? However, you're right. Maybe Naomi and the forensics team can find more information. He gave me a sign that he wanted me to give him the diary, but I hesitated. If you don't mind, I'd like to take the diary and read it first. Reza and I were once close friends, so maybe I'll notice something your people might miss. Maverick looked at me for a moment and lowered his hand. That might be a good idea. You've been of great help so far and earned my trust, for now. Hearing that from Maverick seemed like a big compliment. I never expected him to blindly trust me after just 2 meetings, so hearing those words felt good. You're not going to regret this, Maverick. I think with all the new evidence we found, we should leave now. Even if this apartment's isolated from the others, there's always a chance that someone might notice us. Okay, let's go. With that, we left the apartment, and Maverick made sure to open the curtains again to make sure no one would notice any difference. Alright, sneak, snuck, we are out. Maverick and I silently walked back to my apartment. He tried his best to keep a neutral face, but I was able to notice that he was worried about me and what I learned today. However, I needed time to come to terms with everything, and he seemed to respect that. We were careful to avoid unwanted attention, and soon we arrived at my apartment. Thanks for escorting me home. Well, you helped me with the case, so least I could do. If you need anything or just want to talk, well, you can call if you want. I appreciated Maverick's attempt to offer his help. It was weird to think that only a few days ago he saw me as an enemy, but now he tried to comfort me. Thanks, Maverick. Good night. Good night. And we're back at home. After Maverick took off, I entered my apartment, had dinner. Not feeling tired yet, I grabbed the diary that we found at Reza's apartment and started to read. The first few pages are what I expected. Reza was writing about his time in our school and his plans. In other circumstances, I would have felt bad about invading his privacy, but we needed every possible detail to understand him and his motivation. Sure, he wanted to save mankind, but the Reza I knew would have never murdered others. Not that I had any doubt left that he was behind the dead dragons. The things in his apartment's hiding spot had more than enough evidence that he was on a secret mission, and I was just a pawn. Then something caught my attention. Close to our graduation, a name appeared in almost every entry. Jenna. It seemed she and Reza had a few classes together, like politics or chemistry. I also went to chemistry, but I couldn't remember a girl with that name. I found my name a few times, but there wasn't anything left that I didn't already know. Jenna, however, appeared in every entry by now. She graduated the same year as us, but she and Reza didn't go to prom night. Instead, they just went to some sort of job meeting. After that, they celebrated and got drunk. The entries after our graduation didn't have any information about Reza's job, but mostly about his time with Jenna. They both had started a relationship and were happy together. The way Reza had written during that time was like I never thought he could be. The words of someone deeply in love. By now, I couldn't stop reading the diary. Reza and Jenna were still dating, but there was some sort of accident. The next few entries had been skipped, and the writing of the new ones was slightly different. I learned that Reza had lost an arm in an accident, but his company implanted him a highly advanced prosthesis, including artificial skin. What? Okay. Of course, never seen the advertisements for those prosthetics, and that they were as close to a real lip as possible. The skin was the patient's own, cloned and attached over the machine. The new arm Reza had would have been able to feel everything his real arm could. Warmth, cold, a soft touch and pain. With the cloned skin, no one would know the difference, while Reza would have a slight advantage with his new arm. He wasn't super strong, nor had he any other advantage like in sci-fi movies, but his new arm was still as strong as if he'd trained for years. It had taken Reza almost no time to get used to his new arm, but then the scenery in the diary changed. The flare was about to happen. He and Jenna had been hiding in a bunker under the company while it happened, and the isolation had been enough for Reza to keep his arm working. The following pages were as chaotic as the post-flare time. Chaos broke out, people died, but Reza and Jenna were able to survive until a few months after the flare. The last entry was short, but it told me everything I needed to know to how dangerous Reza might actually be. Jenna is dead. They found and murdered her for our supplies. I was weak, but now I'm strong. I made them pay, all of them. No one will get in the way of my dreams ever again. No more weakness, no more mercy. That was the last entry, and I had a weird feeling that by the end of this case, one of us would be dead, while the other would be deciding the fate of two worlds. Ooh, pretty dramatic. Ah, okay, we made it to the end of the second date with Maverick, much longer than the first one, and we learned a lot about Maverick's attitude, and he's kind of like respectful of people who are going through bad times. He has a certain amount of empathy, probably because of his own traumas that he's had too. But yeah, this was interesting. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll be back for more very soon. This is the show signing off, and hopefully I will see you next time.